Katt, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Steve.
It's been a long
Good to
time.
see you. Yes, it has.
How did you get into theater?
Oh gosh, let's see. In 1979, I thought it would be an easy course in high school.
Oh yeah,
well, freshman in high school, but I like Kiss and wanted to go learn more about makeup and pyrotechnics and stuff, and thought that'd be a good way to do it. And so I did. I joined the drama club there.
Yeah.
And my next year I got my first part in a show. I played Mr. Western and Tom Jones.
Right.
And so I kind of stayed with it through high school and was offered a scholarship to sound, but I never got to take that. And then went to work, and about 17 years later, got back into it, and I've been doing it again for about 16 years now.
So you took a 17-year hiatus from theater.
I had to raise a kid. Yeah.
Okay. What was what did you do in real life?
Well, I was a correctional officer with the Department of Corrections in Texas for 21 years. Well, 15 years I was a guard, and the last part I did logistic work for them. And but yeah, that was my day job.
Well, it's true, that a lot of times, especially actors, you pull on your experiences that you have. Certainly, you must have a lot of different stories and so that you could have pulled from.
Oh, I've got plenty of stories, and I think half the time you're there, you're acting anyway. So. At first, you act like you like the job,
right?
and then you have to, show a front, sometimes for the inmates there. But yeah, that's acting in itself, and then you have to be loud so it works on your vocals,
right?
Whatever. But no, 79 was the kickoff point. My first show was Arsenic and Old Lace.
Really?
Did makeup, makeup for it, and I kind of, because I was interested in makeup. I did a Kiss cover band during those years with some guys in the drama department. And so we did it I was 14, 15, and 16 the years we did that, played Paul Stanley, and I had to bring pictures. I don't have any pictures of it to show you, but, pretty funny thing. And, we did learn makeup. I was mostly interested in that. And
really? That's all.
The theater coach, he said, you should audition. So I did. And that's when I got a part, and then another part, and then another part. And then I did a little bit at Sam Houston when, in our summer, heat program, which was Huntsville Enrichment Activities program. And got to meet some of the professors at Sam Houston, and that's when we built a good relationship there. But I just couldn't take the offer they'd given me because I was shipped to a unit South Texas, and so so far away, and the time it takes to for theater, you can't have a full-time job.
No.
And so I didn't.
So is that why Arsenic has a special place in your heart for you? Because I know you've done it many times.
Yeah, I have done it many times, and I love it. It has a.
Or is it more to it than that? That was one of your first shows. But
I don't know. It's just kind of coincidence because when I got back into acting after the 17 years, the third show back, I did a couple of shows at the Huntsville Community Theater, and then a friend of mine, Kevin Kretschmeyer, called me up, and he and I were in high school together. Our first show together was Arsenic and Old Lace in high school, and I think he did lights or sound or something. I can't remember exactly. Okay. But anyway, we remained friends. Well, he called me up. He was working with the Huntsville Community Theater at the time, and called me up and said, "Hey, they're doing Arsenic and Old Lace down here, and why don't you come audition?" He had moved to Houston when he stopped working with the Huntsville Community Theater, and started working with a group called Theater Lens, and you probably know Carol and some of those guys. So I went and auditioned. It was down 1960 in Houston.
Right.
And got the part of Alsha O'Hara, and he was playing Einstein in it. So our first show together after 17 years was Arsenic and Old Lace. Well, we did 18 shows in a run then, and we'd Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Right.
I mean, it was tough. But it was fortunate because the last show in that run, for me, it was fortunate anyway. There was an agent in the crowd. His name was John Wesley Downing, and he offered to represent me, and so kind of pushed me into other ways and kept me kind of going. I didn't know where I was going to go with that. I had no intentions of doing anything, outside of that. But one step leads to another, I guess, and that's what happened. And so I stayed with him for about 3 years. Went to another agent for about 3 years. Went to another one for about 3 years. About every 3 years, because John Wesley went into production, doing his own movies. And then the second agent I had joined forces with Paige Parks, who pulled me along as one of her talent. And I stayed with him for about 3 or 4 years. And I had a mentor of mine tell me, run independent and try to do some things on your own. Because I was kind of, tired of that scene anyway, in a way.
Right, yeah.
Because you chase commercials and bit parts here and there, it's never storytelling like that. Maybe that's why I like Arsenic so much, because it does tell a story that I really like.
Right.
And that's what I act for anyway, to tell stories. And, and commercial acting doesn't tell many stories,
Yeah.
So
it pays some bills.
It pays some bills, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason you do it. I think
Right.
you go, and that way you can do what you truly love,
Right.
And and that's what a job is about anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So.
That's right.
And I had one of my mentors. She told me to see what she'd been running independent for a while, and so that's what I decided to do myself. And now I'm able to tell more stories because I'm doing some of my own production work.
Right.
And so it's how one thing leads just to another, and that's what happened with this. And so it's kind of interesting.
So you've had a chance to do community theater, professional. You've done film. Now commercial work. I mean, we did some of this. Like you said, these training videos.
You even did some of those
right.
with us,
and all these things. I mean, you've seen different things. What is it that excites you? Is it just the fact that you get to do something different, new?
Well, when it's those type of things, it's getting paid.
Yeah.
You have to get paid so you can tell stories. But what truly excites me is telling good stories, and that's as an actor. There's that. I guess that fame and fortune thing is what most people try to seek when they're doing it. They don't realize the story is the important thing, and I do. That's what truly drives me as an actor, whatever, is to be able to tell stories, and and so those other things, that's part of the business, and that's what you do as an actor, and I want to see what all those realms are about, training videos to commercials to national to locals to regionals, whatever, but the true ambition for me in this is just to tell stories, and be able to get an emotion from an audience, and a response from the audience. Sometimes it may not be so good, you never know,
right.
But to move them, and I think that's just key, to me it is, and I don't, there's not and sometimes there's not a lot of money involved with that, but to keep you going, so you have to do commercials as a professional actor, or whatever that means, so that you can tell those stories and do things like community theater, because it doesn't pay, but these other ones pay, and it gives you a chance, like I'm doing now, playing a Tin Man, that's a wonderful story, and I get to play the Tin Man in a story like this. Are you kidding?
It's a classic story.
Yeah, right. He's an iconic character. It's wonderful, and so you don't get that opportunity. They don't remake that movie. They never will, probably. No. They've got all kinds of wicked
versions of it, right?
But you'll never see the classic redone.
No,
I don't think. So that opportunity is a rare thing, and if I can do commercial work or whatever to pay the bills. Plus, I retired from TDC, which helps. That pays some of the bills. And but to be able to work in a community theater, get a part like that, that's what and get to tell this story. Yeah, that's an incredible story.
That's right. Let's talk about storytelling, because I think storytelling is very important, but I don't know if that art is lost or not, or you see maybe it's just the format.
It's lost
changed.
A little bit because Hollywood is not original anymore, to say the least. That's why there's so many versions of Oz,
right?
Because they're looking for something new, and that's why the independent filmmaker is so important.
Right.
The big film companies are putting out the cookie cutter stories because they sell.
Right.
It's that simple,
Or at least they're hoping they've got a formula that gives them some probability of success, meaning financial success on that.
Right. Well, typically it's
expensive. Yeah.
It's just like the horror genre.
Right.
You can put $20,000-$30,000 into one of those, and your returns might be wonderful. It might be $1 million, $2 million. Right. You never know.
Right.
And that's a great return on a small investment.
Yes.
And so I think that's why the horror industry does so well, because they can do those movies so cheaply.
Yeah.
And then there is that following in.
Of course. Yes.
And those stories are all the same.
Well, it's true.
Pretty much. Let's cut somebody up and show some blood and guts, and so that there you go. But those groups are in every city in America. There's a following for that.
Yeah.
And so if you can get one little, you never know. But I like that. I'm working on a script right now called Welcome to Beaumont. That has a story. It is a horror flick, because I just want to see what it's about. I've done horror flicks before, and they're so much fun on set.
Right.
I mean, I don't even go watch them because I don't.
No. It's more fun doing it.
It's more fun doing it. Right. It's a lot more fun doing it because you're still jerking with the audience. You're still pulling their chain. And that's what's fun about it.
Because it's not real, but you still try to get a rise out of it.
Right. That's all it's about. And the audience that goes to see it knows.
They know it.
Right. Of course, they know it's not real, but at the same time, they want their change earned.
That's right.
So, and hey, why not do that? But tell a story with it. Some of them are just, blood and guts,
Right.
heavy metal music,
Right.
and short skirts on pretty women.
Right,
You know?
right.
You know, that's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, this one I'd like to put run a storyline with it somehow through it.
Right.
But whatever, you know, who knows where that'll go and
Right.
who knows what that, ends up being. You know, we just finished a film, Spring Break, called Third Base that I wrote. It was originally called The Baseball Players, and homosex baseball player on the streets meets a young girl. You know, it's got a great story. It's going to be a short film, probably an hour long, maybe, you know, if we get that much out of it.
Right.
But the story was most important to me, because and I don't want to tell it because I want people to see it.
Yeah.
But we're going to send it to film festivals and stuff like that
Sure.
anyway. So, but those type of little short films can tell a story in such a, I hate to say easy. It's not easy. It takes years to get it to that point. But, still the story is still what drives it. It's just like the one we've talked about, Over Them Hills.
Right.
There's a story there that is important to me, and the emotional part of the story is what moves the audience, and that's what I want to do. And that's my main job as an actor, I guess. Writer, I'm still learning. Directing, I'm still learning. But as an actor, I'm still learning that too. But still, my job as an actor is to move that audience.
Yes.
It's that simple. And that's not simple, I know, but
no, especially now. I mean, because today's audiences, especially kids, are so used to special effects. And, you remember Miracle Worker, and we had a kid come up and ask all these questions.
How into the water, right? Yeah.
Is the water real?
Yeah.
Yeah. The water's real.
The water's real.
Yeah. Is the people real?
Yeah.
Yes, the people are real.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
And you think, well, this is a silly question, but they're so used to seeing, fake.
It's not a silly
right?
question, I had a discussion with someone the other day about the computer-generated stuff, and I just don't really, if it's got much of that in it, I don't care to see the movie. That doesn't do anything for me. I mean, it's great for the people that do that. It's probably a cheaper way to get effects, in movie making it is, but, the story that we did on Third Base, that's, there's none of that.
Right.
It's all dialogue-driven and, actor driven, if that makes sense, and some of the cinematography, of course, and that's, I'm not a cinematographer, but I let them do that. That's their job. I hired them to do that,
Right.
And so, and if I just stay back out of the way, learn my lines and do my part, I think it'll come together. And so but I don't, even in a horror movie, I don't want computer generated stuff.
Right.
I would want, something that looked like real blood.
Right.
If I had to go get some goat's intestines or something to throw out there, I might do it. But, who knows? But, it's all about the story. It always has been. And I think actors that approach it, a lot of them I see, and it's so weird because I hear it, they go to Hollywood.
Right.
They go there for one reason. They want to be famous.
Yeah.
They go there,
whatever that is,
whatever that is, whatever that means to them. I don't know what that means, it's never, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. From what I see, how it destroys people sometimes.
You have to be extremely well grounded. It seemed like to survive the melt. That's even if you're succeeding.
And I think about that too because someone's asked me before, if you ever got any kind of fame off of what you do,
right?
The super fame. I'm talking about like a big, whatever. How would you handle it? Well, now I think I could better than I ever would have been able to when I was, offered scholarships in acting and who knows what would have happened then. I'd have been a damn fool. I mean, I'd have lost my mind. Who knows what I'd have.
Right.
Look at the Heath Ledgers and people out there, these youngsters that Phoenix, River Phoenix, those kind of guys, that fame killed them. And, I feel very fortunate. I had a kid when I was young, so that I couldn't do what I wanted to do or whatever. I don't know if that was what I wanted to do. It was offered to me.
Right.
I wanted to be a baseball player, for God's sake. And so, that's where I was headed, and acting was a side thing. Baseball players would say, my friends in baseball, what are you doing? Theater, drama, drama boys are always sissy boys, Well, and it's like, because I like it. It's that simple, the baseball was what I really wanted to do. And so, you never know where you're going to be led. But had I been led into that, where there was, money and fame or whatever, I don't know. I don't think I could have handled it.
Well, let's talk about that because, baseball, even that's changed over time, too.
Oh,
Remember, there was a time when people played baseball because they loved baseball.
Yeah.
They loved baseball.
But not today.
Right. But like many sports today, it's about the super person who's getting the super salary, right?
That's right.
And
using the superroids and
yeah, right, yeah, and all, yeah. Oh, I didn't take any.
Yeah, well, even they admit it, and they still go make millions. There's no punishment for it whatsoever. So yeah, baseball has lost the allure that it once had for me as a kid. But kids, see things differently anyway.
Sure,
they see their idols, and the idols we had then. Who knows what the hell they were doing? I hate to say it that way, but who knows what they were doing? To bolster their or whatever it might have been.
Performance.
Yeah, exactly. And there were some of those things then, I'm sure, but today it's very, prevalent and it seems to be an okay thing. Our society seems to accept it.
Yeah.
So, baseball definitely has lost it, but, actors can take all the steroids they want. If they can't act, they can't act. Whatever that means,
Well, that's interesting too, because, like I said, it seems like there are a lot of game makers. In all industries, that's true. There's a game maker, if you will. Like people have the power and a lot of the control.
Get the job done.
Industry, I don't film, acting,
everything.
It's not really any different. But you said you really like telling the story. What are the good elements of a story to you?
That's a tough one. It's kind of funny to answer that because, or it's hard to answer that because stories hit you.
Yeah.
You don't think I'm going to sit down and write this story now.
Right.
You get something hits you,
right.
Whatever that inspires you to write. Over them hills and even with third base.
Right.
I sat down in 2 hours and had 90% of both of them written
right.
down. Now I've got the rough draft finished with Over Them Hills, but with third base, it was 4 years later before I went back and looked at it again.
Right.
It with the concept of wanting just to put it on stage in a small setting with other plays.
Right. So is that experience? Is it just something visceral? Is it just something that you observed and you said, no, this is kind of a story that needs to be told?
Well, no, it's the premise is there, I guess,
right.
It's just somewhere in your head. I don't know how that comes out, but it's still to get an emotion from an audience.
Right.
It's still that simple to me because if I can move an audience, then maybe it's worked. And that's what the story's about. I mean, Mark Twain moved people with humor.
Yes.
With seriousness, all those elements in his stories, they're always there,
Right.
And not that I read him all the time or
right.
have read much of it.
Right.
It's just that, when there's a good storyteller, like Mark Twain or what have you, they just move people.
Right.
And when you read a good story and it moves you, it's, for me as an actor, I read a part and if it doesn't move me, whatever, but if I find a way that I can use that to move an audience, and it moves me. If it moves me as the audience when I'm reading it, surely as an actor I can find a way to move an audience.
Right.
Hopefully, if I'm doing my job as an actor. And so that's maybe how I approach, stories, and not that I write millions of them anyway.
Right.
It's just when it hits me, I sit down and start writing. Yeah. Over them hills one morning we were in the rehearsal for Miracle Worker when we were doing Miracle Worker, and I don't know, I was about to go to rehearsal or something. I woke up one day and was thinking about that, studying my lines, and this hit me. So I set my script aside for Miracle Worker and started writing. And, and maybe because I was in that mode of the Southern, after the fact of the Civil War and all, maybe it was in my head. And it came out of somewhere there. I don't know. I don't really try to, worry about where it comes from.
You don't think so much about analyzing it.
No. I think if you analyze it, you'll kill it. You'll tear it apart. The story won't be there. Because, there's no formula for it, I don't think.
Right.
Now, there are certain formulas, I guess, for some writers. Stephen King, he has a thing he does probably because he can put out so many. He just, blankets the earth with Stephen King novels, But for me, I can't write like that. I don't, I'm not a writer like that, period. I just write when it hits me. And then it's to tell the story. And if I can pull an emotion out of myself while I'm writing it, then I feel that I can tell it and pull an emotion out of the audience that I'm writing for, And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know, it seems like it works sometimes.
Do you have a favorite author, or did you like reading?
Edgar Allan Poe when I was growing up. Poe was definitely big. I don't know why. Maybe because he was darker than most, or different. Because he's got some fun stuff. But I did read a little Stephen King growing up, but not because he was my favorite, just because I read. I mean, I read everything I could get a hold of, But that was before the age of 19 million channels and direct TV.
Right. With the same stuff.
I did the same as everything. I flip because I'm guilty of it too. But, but you still see the same thing on that. And, and most of that's commercial now.
Yes.
Most of television is commercial.
Yeah.
And it's sad, I was talking to someone the other day about it. I said, I've got DirecTV. I pay $100 a month for this. And I've always heard that, well, advertisement, commercial ads on television were to pay for the service, basically.
Right.
Well, what am I paying $100 for?
To get more commercials.
Yeah, to get more damn commercials.
No, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
To get more commercials. It's like, so I don't know. And I think television has become that. That's all it is. And Hollywood has become that. And their formulaic, they have their formula they follow, and and that's why I don't think there's an original, and I hate to say that because I'm sure someone would, if they see this interview and,
but it's true. But it's true. A lot of things I think that they do get judged on. It has to be of a certain ilk.
Well, if you had a jury and put the evidence out there, you could probably prove that Hollywood is not original.
Yeah.
I mean, because they remake everything, it seems. I mean,
especially lately.
A lot lately. Yeah. And if they can't remake it, they remake the one they just made.
Right.
Iron Man 25, or whatever, you know what I'm saying. Pirates of the Caribbean. Don't get me wrong. I love Pirates of the Caribbean. It's a fantastic movie. Johnny Depp's wonderful in it.
Right.
But they've done how many now?
It's at least 4, if not more.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And
Karate Kid, there's like 4 or 5 of those.
And Jaws eats another victim, whatever.
That's right. Yeah. Scary Movie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
And they're good movies. It's funny. There's always something to find in them that are interesting and it's fun. But it's still because they are out of ideas.
Yes.
I don't know if it's, but then there's someone comes along like Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
I know it's animated and I know it's wacky.
Right.
But still, some of the thoughts there are very original, and it's very weird. And he has spin-offs, American Dad, Cleveland.
Yes.
And how do they come up, the ideas that this man comes up with and his crew is amazing because it's animated, but boy, do they get a point across. And do they tell a story? Do they tell a great story sometimes? Yeah. And even though it's wacky, it's still it's original. And that's maybe part of the thing I try to do is tell something original. Although that's very difficult anytime, with anybody because, I mean, we've been writing literature for how many thousands, of years now, whatever, and so it's hard to find something that's not been approached in some way or another. If you rearrange it, so I guess Hollywood's to keep the stuff coming there, it's kind of tough. I'm sure it's tough for them. I'm not a writer, so I don't know. I write some things. I'm not a writer. I don't consider myself a writer.
Right.
But I know how to write a script, that way, sort of. But the guys that do it for a living, I don't know how they do it. It's to sit at a table and come up with ideas, whatever they do, Maybe it's drinking beer at the pub and it hits them or whatever. But when they have to put it out every week, in a series.
On a schedule?
On schedule. Right. How in the world do you do that? I don't know. And, kudos to them because it's more power to them. Right. Because I don't think I could do it. I just, it's, for me to write, I have to just let it be. I've wrote Over Them Hills. You read it.
Right. Yeah.
And I haven't touched it since. I haven't even done the rough draft because I got busy with other things.
Right.
But I'll go back to it, and when it's time to start filming, I'll have it ready, somehow, whatever. But sometimes when you're on set, ideas hit you, and so the people around you, if you can be open enough, I guess I am. I don't know. Some people might not be. I want to try to stay as close as I can to the story, of course. But if some really neat idea comes up from, the sound person, whatever over here, why don't you do this? Right. Oh, well, that's a great idea, as a director of that film, whatever, if they're open enough to take that, hey, why not? That's what the director's job is, nah, that sucks, or yeah, that's a good one, let's keep it. But I'm the one that's going to get credit for writing it. Whatever, how that is,
So what roles would you like to do that you haven't done yet?
Ooh, man, that's a good one. Age limits me to some, because Hamlet would be a fun one. I'm not a big Shakespearean actor or anything, but Hamlet would be a fun one if I was going to do a Shakespearean one. But I'm past that in age, I think. Man, I don't know.
Because you've done quite a bit.
Yeah, I've done
in community theater.
I like
all around
doing.
here.
I love Arsenic, and Jonathan's probably one of my favorite roles, if not my favorite. Tin Man, when it came up, it was Oz, I started really looking strong at Tin Man. I started looking at Scarecrow to begin with, to learn the music, to start to get ready for the audition. And then I realized, when I started listening more to the Tin Man, because I felt I only fit those two roles, Scarecrow and Tin Man. Maybe Oz, whatever, Right. And then I got to thinking, man, Tin Man is the one with the emotion. He's got the heart, whether he's heartless in it throughout, but he really, all the characters really have what they're looking for already.
Right.
But in this case, it was the emotion of the part. He can move an audience, and when he talks about, now I know I have a heart because
Right.
it's breaking.
Right.
You know, if he's not crying, you know, I mean, the audience
Right.
is going to be crying
Right.
with him, you know.
Right.
And that's why I like that part, because and I didn't know that a year ago.
Right.
You know, I didn't think about it twice a year ago.
Right.
So I don't know what part I want to play because it
Right.
hasn't hit me yet.
Uh-huh.
And if I could, you know, I just don't know, because stories, when they hit me, that's the part
Right.
I like. And there's so many things out there, you know, I don't, I've not read yet.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And when I see it, I go, oh yeah, I really like that part, you know, so that's the one I want to play.
You know, that's interesting, because I guess maybe we're all looking for that, these things that touch us or excite us, whatever. You know, I think about entertainment. Right. What is it that we're trying to get entertainment? We want to be taken away, you know, and so, and everybody, it's something different, right? Like you say, some people like the horror genre.
Oh, well,
you know?
yeah.
You know, and that's fine. That's how they want to spend their dollars. That's fine.
And that's exactly
you know?
right.
There's some people, they want to laugh. I don't want to think about it. I just want to laugh.
Yeah.
And the other folks, you know, okay, you know, they
love the
they're into
musical stuff.
They love the musical stuff, you know, because it, you know, whatever reason, maybe they want to sing like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're into that. Well, if that's what it takes, so I guess, you know, that's fine. But
Yeah, and you know, so as an actor, I don't really limit it to what I want to play.
Right.
I know the stories I might want to tell, and I'm working
Yeah.
on those. You know,
Right.
But it's still, if it's the role I want to play is the one that moves an audience.
Yes.
Whatever it is, if it's to make them hate him, you know, like the Jonathan Brewster.
Right.
I mean, by the end of that, you know, when I've done that in different places, there were
Right.
people that would not come up and shake my hand. Because
They really
I had
believed
made
you,
them
right?
mad, you know, and they thought, you know, they would steer away from me because they thought I was a real jerk, you
Right,
know,
right.
and he really is. I mean,
So you were successful.
but I was successful. That's what I knew then. I knew then I was successful at the part when
Right.
people were avoiding me,
Right.
you know, and also like with Captain Keller and Miracle Worker, I love that part.
Right.
Very strong character, but cries also.
Yes.
And the audience cries with him because they feel his pain. And at the end, you know, there's a different reaction than the Jonathan Brewster, you know, when audiences shake hands and say
Yes.
hello. And, you know, so you get that, there's that other side of moving audiences. It's always about that to me. I don't know why actors would think of it as any other way. I mean, you're an actor on a live stage.
Well, no, but
There's the only
Right.
reason it's live is because you have an audience.
Right.
You know, if you're not acting for that audience, what are you doing it for?
Right.
I mean, it's not for my kick. I get a kick out of it.
Sure.
Right, I do. I mean,
Yeah.
and I do it for my,
Sure.
kicks and grins, if you will.
Right.
But it's still, we're working for an audience. I don't care if it's in movies. You know, if you write a book as a writer,
Right.
are you writing it for yourself? Why did you
Because
put it
I
on
hope not.
why did you put it on the
Right.
shelf to sell then?
Right.
Who are you trying to sell it to? You
Right.
know? And so that's, and so if I can find a role that I think will move an audience in some form or fashion, if I can do my job as an actor and do that, that's the role I want.
Yeah.
And I don't care what it is, it may be a drag queen, in Miss Fortune Cookie. I've played
Right.
one of those before
Right.
too. But there's something to the character that, there's more than just that, what you see.
Right.
There's something there that gives the actor an opportunity to find those elements
Right.
of emotions to move that audience, and hopefully, when you break a character down and you get into the character development,
Right.
you find that, and you have to do your research as an actor to do
Right.
that.
Oh yeah.
And so, but yeah, that's the roles you're talking about.
Right.
What role is my favorite, or what role do I want to play that I haven't played yet?
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
I mean, every role I see that can move an audience, I don't care what it is,
Right.
So if they want to put me in a pink bunny suit beating a drum, as long
you
as
think
I,
it can move
if I
an
think I
audience-
can move an audience with it, I want to do it.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about the education of kids in theater, because I think
Okay.
you're a wonderful theater teacher.
well, thank
How
you.
do you get the kids not just to love acting, but actually become good actors? Is there some innate ability? Is there something like preconceived notions that
I make them take it serious.
Really?
Yeah, simple as that. I make them take it serious. But I do it in a fun kind of way. I think maybe but I give them things to do, goals to reach, and like when we do our showcase with the Bravo kids here,
Right.
they know they have that showcase coming up. I scare them to death, letting them know that live audience is going to be there.
Right.
And after all, we're working for the audience. I tell them that all the time. Right. We're working for an audience. That's what you do as an actor. And get prepared so that you can make that audience like what you're doing. You know, move them. If you move them, they're going to, you know, and that's still the same thing, I think, but make them take it serious. Learn your lines, you know, learn movement with it, you know, facial expression, whatever, you know, we work on that particular day or week or whatever it is. And then I have fun with them, you know, when the work is done, you know, there's a reward to it. There's a game I like to play called Distraction with my kids, and they just love it, you know, and it's, I may drop a chair behind them while they're doing a monologue, or I may, or even drop a ladder, you know, make a big sound to see if I can distract them. And the kids love that kind of stuff. And so if they know they've got that coming, but they can't get it until they have their monologue learned or whatever, you know, it kicks them in gear to learn that so they can play this game. And some of that's part of it, I guess. But you know, I just like kids, and you know, and I won't accept, you know, mediocre work. You know, I want them to push it. You know, and maybe that's it. I really don't know. You know, I just enjoy what I'm doing when I'm doing it with them. So I think that's half the battle.
What's probably the biggest mistake of the beginning actor, not just kid, but any beginning actor, especially community theater? We got a lot of newbies too, right? People say like, "Oh, you know, that looks fun. I think I give it a shot." Well, what's their biggest mistake?
Approaching it wrong, I guess. Not realizing that there's the amount of work it takes to do it right. And they go in and, you know, and when they realize that, they, you know, they're only halfway going at it about it, and not, you know, not taking it serious. You know, when I first got back into this thing, I didn't, you know, they were talking, you know, when I had an agent come to me and say, "I want to represent you," I'm going, "For what?" I don't know what you're talking about. Well, for TV and film, and you know, I think you could do that. I said, "Really?" You know, and so I made many mistakes there. You know, I didn't. I had an audition. My first film audition with John Downey was for an Academy commercial. Well, we were doing Inherit the Wind at the time. I was playing the bailiff in it at Theater Lens, and my hair was long. I had a goatee kind of period. Well, I didn't know the commercial look, you know, I made that mistake, you know, not understanding my situation and what they were looking for in a commercial way, you know, the shorter hair, you know, whatever. So I went into this Academy commercial, and I didn't realize how small film is compared to stage. You know, this is the first time I've ever done it. And so I go in, and Karen Gourmet was the casting director, and she still is after, you know, 15, 16 years later. And she says, "I want you to say, 'Hey, Academy.'" I went, "Hey, Academy!" Real big like that. She goes, "Thank you." And first off, I had the hair, and it was going against me, you know. And then I go in, and I'm really big like stage, you know. I didn't know, you know. And so, you know, film classes later, and, you know, a few, you know, those type of mistakes, you know. Go to classes first, you know, take those classes and stuff. That's the mistake a lot make. Now, in community theater is different. Sometimes you're begging for people to show up. So you get who you can get, and you train them as you go along, and you know, some people are naturals at it, you know, some, you know, need, you know, the coaching. But, that one mistake the main mistake is just not knowing your situation, I guess, knowing what's going on exactly. And, you know, but experience. I mean, you know, you make mistakes. That's where you get your experience, I guess, you know, and so that's part of the learning thing too, you know. And I don't think you ever stop learning, guys. You know, I can go now and bomb an audition really easy, you know, so that's not that hard to do. Just that, you know, but, and so, I would say that just understand what you're getting into is the main thing. And some people don't. They get there and they think, "Oh, this is going to be fun. We'll just get on stage, say a few lines, and move on." And not realize it's a lot
more than that.
Not realizing the rehearsal schedule. Not, you know, you got to be there, you know, how many weeks it takes to prepare just a smaller character, you know. I mean, I hate to say smaller character because, you know.
Well, just one with less lines.
Let's put it that way.
Less airtime.
Well, I've always heard that, you know, there are no small parts, only small actors. Well, there are small parts, but yes, there are small actors that, you know, may not can handle that small part. Because they think it's below them, you know, or whatever, when it's a very important part of the story, of course, you know, but do I like playing those? Sometimes they're the best ones.
Best roles, absolutely.
Sometimes they really
You
are.
can do just about anything, sometimes, depending on what it is.
And you know, leading guys are the leading guys, and sometimes they're the straight ones that they don't have any funny lines.
Well, in some ways, straitjacket is.
He is, and they are handcuffed, you know, a little bit because they can't vary. They've got to, you know, poor Andy Griffith in the
Right.
Andy Griffith Show was that guy all the time.
Right.
You know, and Barney Fife.
But he was the straight man.
Yeah, he was a straight man. But Barney Fife is the one everyone laughs at and remembers the most. But they don't
Got all the
realize how
awards, too.
hard it is to play that. You know,
Yes.
but he wasn't a small character. He was a
No,
large
no,
character.
no.
And so, yeah.
And I guess that's the male equivalent of like the dumb blonde. You know,
Yeah.
people think it's easy to play.
It is
dumb
not
blonde.
easy to play.
That is not.
Suzanne Summers can prove that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's not as easy.
It is not easy at all to play, and you know, but a lot of people don't realize that. They come in, you know, I just want a small part to start with. All right, now small part's not necessarily easy, you know,
Right.
and but you know, just know the situation. I think that was the mistake I made most of the time, you know, not realizing the difference between the two, you know, because I'd only been back in acting just a short while anyway. Mm-hmm. You know, I was still trying to learn the stage stuff again, you know, although that kind of came pretty easy because I'd done it before, you know,
Right.
and you know, it's so funny how they talk about the training, you know, and what you've learned comes back. Well, it does. I mean, but I'd never done film.
Right.
And so when I went to do that, I'm thinking, hey, I'm an actor, bigger the better,
Right.
you know, and what was I wrong, you know? And, you know, but it took me a while to ever get back to see her again, you know, but things changed. It got better, you know, because I was cast finally in an Academy commercial and, you know, for her. So that was many years later, but, you know, still it's, you learn from those mistakes. Mm-hmm. And, but I would say to a new actor, just know what you're getting into, do a little research, look at a script to see how much dialogue you may have, or, you know, if you're going to do an audition, study the audition, be ready, be prepared. Don't go in, you know, halfway doing it. You know, that's what I try to do, you know, when I was auditioning for Oz, you know, I was preparing for those roles well before, you know, I mean, I started learning the music well before, in case I got a part.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'd be that much further ahead
because
I knew I would need it. I don't do musicals, you know, so, you know, to do this, I had to be.
Well, you dance, you got dancing, singing.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I was happy to get Tin Man. I thought Tin Man, you know, not a lot of movement. Are you kidding me? Yeah, I've got a dance in there, baby. You know, so, you know, but one way I can get by with it is I'm playing the Tin Man. So, you know, you're a little clunky, a little rusty. And I got one line that cleans it all up too. She asked me Dorothy asked, are you all right? And I'm saying, I'm a little rusty yet. Well, hey, that's you know, helps me out a little bit there. And so, you know, that was kind of interesting, but yeah, be prepared, is or not being prepared is the mistake that most make. They don't know what they're getting into. Yeah. And, kids, grown-ups, whatever, you know, grown-ups can handle a little easier. Kids don't know what they're doing. And so they have this innate way of handling things anyway. Sure. You know, it's just the way it is. You know, they just, you know, they can handle it because they don't know what they're into. Sure. And they move right on. They learn it and never know the mistakes they made, maybe. You know, some of them were very aware. You know, our Dorothy in Oz is very aware of things like that. You know, but she's experienced. She's been around. Yeah, she's done some things. Yeah. And so, you know, and you get kids like that. That's why she's Dorothy. That's right. You know, and, or Dorothy. Yes. I say, with the Hickory, I say Dorothy. Right. With Tin Man, I say Dorothy. Yeah, Dorothy. Well, it's that Dorothy. Yeah, to put it in there, you know. So, but yeah, I tell you, the mistakes I made when I first started in film, if I'd have known, you know, and everyone says, well, I wish I'd have known what I knew, now then, you know, 100 years ago, whatever. Right. And so, yeah, that's the thing. Just know what you're getting into. I was sent out, you know, and didn't have a clue. And he said, pushed me out of the nest, said, fly, boy, fly. You know, and so I tried, you know, and sometimes I didn't fly, you know. It took me a while to land, you know, my first job in film, you know. I don't know how long it was or how many auditions, I don't remember, but it was a small commercial for a car dealer in Houston. Yeah. And, you know, and it's like, wow, I got a part. You know, but I started getting a feel for what it was, you know, and what film required compared to stage, you know, plus taking classes, you know. I think it's important, you know, and I tell people that all the time, you know. I kind of coach myself, you know, because I'm pretty self-driven with this. Even when I work with directors, you know, they give notes, of course, and all that, whatever, but they don't have to worry about me. I'm going to do what I do because I direct myself, you know, and I think that's important to direct yourself and be one of those types of actors so you don't get in the way. But you know, some people don't do the work that's required, you know, and they have to be directed. Right. And they get in the way that way, sort of. And I don't, you know. Well, maybe it has to do with different directing styles, too. Because I've seen actors that, you know, like I said, their resume be long, and then you see them do something, and you're like, I don't get it. Yeah. And it's because that particular person is,
they're the kind of person that I say, do this, they get it.
Yeah.
But they don't come up with that on their own. They're not really a thinking actor. Okay.
Yeah, but see, and that's, to me, you're leaving something out if you do that. If you wait on other people to tell you what to do with the part,
yes,
then you're not doing the part right.
Yeah, well, I think so. But, like I said, there are some directors, and you've probably seen them too, where they just want basically chess pieces.
Oh, yeah, and they'll tell you.
Do this, do that, do this, act like this. Yeah, right.
You handcuff an actor when you do that.
Yes.
The good directors, if they have the ability to get the actors they want. Right. That's the casting. Everyone says there's 90% of it.
Yes.
Well, there's some truth to that. I mean, of course, but, and they got it along. But most good directors just stay out of the way.
Yes.
If you've casted well, I mean, in community theater, you're going to have levels, and that's the beauty of it. You get to work with new people that have never done it before, and, your chance to teach them on stage and work with them. We've got several in this show that have never done anything before. And I've not done musicals much myself, and so I get help from other people, whatever, but still at the same time, I study the part. Yes. But if a director has a chance to get the people they want, their job is half done. I think at that point, yes. Because if you get driven actors that want to, move audiences and know what it takes to build that part, develop that character, and just be on their toes when it comes to being on their toes. Everyone has little moments here and there, but but still, that's that being prepared again. Just going back to that.
All right, I'm going to ask you the question we ask everyone: if heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get to the pearly gates?
Oh boy, well, heaven does exist, and some form or fashion, anyway. Man, he says, "Would you like this part?" As an actor, I guess I could say that. But probably what he'd truly say, "What are you doing here?" Now, what I want him to say, that's what he probably would say. Right. What the heck are you doing here? Right. And, but what I'd like for him to say, ooh, man, I hadn't thought about that one, would be, hey, welcome. Would you like to play some golf?
That's right. You like to play golf.
I do like to play golf. So, I think, that would be, a fun round of golf, I don't expect to win it, but
right.
He's got all the elements.
The game's fixed.
Yeah, I know. He's got all the elements working in his favor. So, but yeah, I think that would be what I would, how do you answer that?
It was incredible. Hey, Katt, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you.